Hey there, in this video I am going to give you a kind of rundown of this app I've been building called gsworkspace. It says it's got a website, gsworkspace.com. It says it's an AI canvas in your browser. What does that mean? I'll explain that later. But I'm going to start by explaining the problem I was trying to solve with this app and why it would have never been built without Claude Code. Okay, so I make a lot of content on the internet. So my site Gradient Space, I write these tutorials on Unreal Engine and geometry processing, 3D printing, and these are filled with images, screenshots, and little videos and GIFs and stuff like that. They all got to be processed and cropped and captured, and I usually have 4 or 5 versions before I find one that's good. So that's a lot of work to just deal with all that content, let alone making the page. I also give sort of talks at conferences and events and stuff like that. Same kind of thing. I got to make these big slide decks filled with little pictures. These are almost all screenshots out of papers and things like that. And then I also make a lot of software, and then I got to make documentation for that software, and it's the same kind of thing. Pages of text and images. Almost all of the images are screen captures. I got to be cropped and assembled and put in the page and dealt with. And then, to do all that, just an enormous number of files. So I've just got directories and directories filled with files and files and files, because I don't want to lose, the sources for these, the uncropped version before I assemble them, all that kind of stuff. So my dream app that I've been dreaming of for like 20 years is an app that would just make doing all this easier, because when I want to do all that cropping, I got to go into paint.net, and when I want to do the GIFs, I got to go to EasyGIF, and when I'm going to do the video trimming or cropping, I got to start up DaVinci. There's just so much jumping around between things and dealing with all those files. And so what I wanted forever was some kind of thing like this, a sort of infinite canvas where I could just, go in here and take a screenshot of this app and just paste it right in here, and now it's there, and it's going to go to somewhere on a cloud server where I can go back to this page on any of my computers, and I can go in and crop this image and then maybe save it out to put on the web page, or later I might come back and take that crop away so it's all non-destructive. So this basic sort of idea, this kind of infinite canvas where I can just put all this content, videos too, and GIFs, and convert, make GIFs out of it, all that kind of stuff. I've just been thinking about this for forever, of making this app. And the problem is I would have never built this app because it would take too much time to just make something that's going to make my life easier. But now this app exists, and that's what you can get. This is GS Workspace. And so this app exists because of Claude Code. So if you go to GitHub, you go view on GitHub with this website, you're going to see this app, 300 commits. If you go and look at the sort of what's been happening, you see all those commits are in the last 20 days or so, and every single one of them is RMSA, that's me, and Claude committed. And in fact, Claude committed all of them, and Claude wrote all the code. I have not touched this code. This is a web app made in Node and React. I've never done that. I do C++ and C# desktop applications. I know a lot about programming, but I do not know how to build this app, and I never would have, and I have not touched this code. Claude is 100% coded the entire thing. And so in the rest of this video, I'm going to walk you through how that happened and all the features it's built, because we've gone way past, so this image and video cropping and all that kind of stuff, that's what I started, that's all I was trying to go for. And then I started to figure out other things that Claude could put in here for me, and where we got to, this is the kind of endpoint right now. So and this is a sort of fantasy thing I never would have imagined before. So I'm just going to select all these images, and I got this little sort of button here, this little prompt. It's going to say create a professional looking tutorial page for this content. So I just kind of slap this around here, put in a little bit of text, sort of overview of this page, and I'm going to click this run button, and it's going to send all this stuff off with a system prompt to, this one's going to Claude Opus, and it's going to come back and it's going to have made me a web page. So we're just going to fast forward through this, wait, because it's going to be a couple seconds. Okay, and there I came back, made this page for me, laid out the images, generated a bunch of text. I'm probably going to edit that text before I use this on a page, but this gives me a starting point where now the time to make one of those pages that used to take hours and hours and hours, once I get this basic content and do a bit of editing, saves me an insane amount of time. I can export this out here to the full page or to Markdown, drop this onto my Astro site. So this is the kind of endpoint, and I'm going to walk you through all the features that Claude Code has built for me to get us to this point. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the gsworkspace.com website and click on this Try Demo button, and that's going to go to a static page on the site there that is an offline mode of the app. So the app, GS Workspace, is normally a client-server app where the server does a lot of things for you, including the storage and video support and stuff like that. But when I went to decide to put this on the website, I asked Claude, could we make an offline mode that works just purely in the browser? And it said, yeah, sure. So that's what this is. This demo, I can create a new scene. So there's scene tabs. There's, scene 1, scene 2. And I can say go back to this app here, take a screenshot, paste that in. Let me take another screenshot, paste that one in. And I can, so it's fully functional for this kind of image editing. So I can go in and do the cropping tool. This all happens in the browser. Set a nice crop region. I can do things like constrain it to square. And then I can also copy and paste this crop. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to accept that crop. And then I'm going to go over here, paste that crop, so I get the same crop on these two different images, which is something that normally I got to do by putting them as layers in Paint.net and then apply the same crop to both levels. So that's a kind of useful thing. So this offline mode stores all your data. If you go into the settings here, it'll show you. So if you go to this browser data tab, you can see that it explains that some things are stored in this browser local storage, which where preferences and stuff like that are stored, and then the actual scene data is stored in something called IndexedDB, which is kind of attached to your browser. And this site, you can store a lot of data in there, up to like tens of gigabytes. So if you want to clear that out, you can go in here and clear it. But otherwise, this will persist, so you can go away, come back to this site later. It's not going to disappear just because we reload the page. I'm going to check this, do not show again. So this is fully functional. If you need to crop some images, you just come to this website and drop them in here. Nothing goes off of your computer. Everything stays local. So this is, there's this, and there's a lot more functionality I'm going to show you, but this is not where this app started. This is not this kind of one-shot nonsense where I typed a big long description and said, make me this whole app. Claude and I built this app feature by feature over time, and so just to show you where it started, this is the very first commit in the repo, which is after probably about half an hour of me and Claude talking about how we're going to set up this app and stuff like that. Basically, what it did is it let you add an image, and you could select it, scale it, and rotate it. I took out rotating because I decided I didn't need that. Delete it. This send to LLM button there didn't even work. And that's it. Nothing saving yet. This is totally just a super basic prototype. And all those commits are working from here to this current state of the app. And this is where we were by the end of that day. So this was about 5 hours later. I had to upgrade Claude Code to the $100 plan because I ran out of tokens. This was the first day I started using Claude Code. So now we had, I could drag and drop into the scene, and we had multiple scene support. You see there's save error here. That's because I didn't set up the S3 config. So this was saving the scenes to S3. And I had the prompt objects. I could do image and text prompting. That was all working within the first 5 hours or so. Okay, and this is where we were at the end of the second day, which is about another 3 or 4 hours. So we have this prompt objects working. It's going to spit out an HTML page here and a sort of floating HTML iframe overlay that's interactive. So we saw that before. And the other big thing I added on that second day was undo and redo. We had to spend quite a bit of time on undo and redo because Claude made a lot of mistakes, and I had to help it debug and help it redesign the undo system from scratch, because the first attempt it took completely was a terrible idea. And so that's how it's gone for the past couple weeks doing this. Is we kind of go back and forth. We add a big chunk of new functionality, and then I work through all the issues with Claude Code, and that gets us, to here where we are now. Okay, I thought I'd just take a little interlude here to show you what it's actually like to work with Claude Code if you haven't tried it or seen people using it. So I'm just going to start up the command line tool here in my project directory. I'm going to type start the dev servers, so it starts up the front end and back end servers, and it'll think a little bit while it's doing that. So this all happens in a terminal window. I'm in Windows here, so I'm using Windows Terminal. Here we go. Okay, so it says the server is running on localhost 3000, so I can load that up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is fix a bug. So I noticed this later when I was making the video, but this HTML gen box here, it actually crops whatever's in there, and my text fields, they expand automatically. So basically I just want the HTML gen box to do what the text field did. Actually getting the text field to do that took a bit of work. But what I'm going to do is go back here and say, in the HTML gen boxes, the text is clipped. Can you auto resize them on text commit so that all the text is visible? Hit enter. So now it's going to think, and I'll fast forward in the video while it goes through this, so we don't have to wait, because it might take a minute or two. Okay, so now it's done. It thinks it's fixed it. So let's just go back over here and check. I said to only do it on commit, so if I hit enter here, and we see there it did. So that bug is fixed. So it's still not perfect because, we paste it in here. Some more lines. We see that, it's still not showing me the whole thing while I'm editing, but it will expand it when it's done. Now maybe I want it to show me the whole thing when I'm editing. So I can go back. That first try, it took quite a bit of time, took 4 minutes. So because I just opened the session, it had to load up a lot of context to make that improvement. But now I'm going to ask it to try and make it so that it expands as it's editing, and we'll see if it can sort that out too on the first try. Okay, so that one, you see, because it has everything in context now, much faster. So let's see if it does. And so now it's growing as I'm editing. Okay, so that's basically what I do to work on this app. I go into Claude Code and I tell it what's wrong or what I want to add, and then we go back and forth as we fix it. So that was offline mode. So down here in the bottom left, there's this little button you click on, and you can see there's offline mode, local disk mode, and online mode. So those two are not where the app runs, but where the data gets stored. So local disk stores it on my computer, and online stores it in a S3 bucket if it's configured. So I'm going to switch to local disk mode. I got a scene here. I'm just going to go drop in a video. So this is video editing capability, so it can play the video in the viewport. I can speed it up, make it loop, mute, unmute, things like that. If we go to edit, so now this is the video editor that we built. So it doesn't do everything, but what it does let you do, sort of the critical stuff that I find myself always needing to do with videos, screen captures and things like that, is crop So I've got all those crop controls like I showed for the images. I can constrain the aspect ratio to say to 16:9. I can control the speed. Oh, set that to say 4x. I can trim the video, so I turn on trim. Maybe I scroll through here till something's happening. Set the start. Drag this little handle for the end. It shows the time updating there. And then click out here. And now the video is trimmed. And I've got a shorter version. It's only 4 seconds now. This is a nice little maybe clip to convert to a GIF. I can, completely remove that edit. It's non-destructive, or I can go back in. Let's just make a square one. We got that trim still on. And we'll put this back to 4x. So now I got this smaller clip, same thing, still 4 seconds. Now I can right click, convert to GIF. So now it's going off to FFmpeg running locally. Made a GIF out of it. Convert GIFs back to videos if I want to do more editing. So the GIF editing right now only supports cropping. But the video editing supports these other retiming controls and stuff like that. And then, if I'm happy, say this GIF, I can export this GIF. And it's going to pop up file browser. I can put that file wherever I want. The file name there is going to be taken from this renamable thing up here. Shows me stuff like the file size and the resolution here in the title bar. And just to point out, every time I do something here, you see at the bottom the scene goes to unsaved. So every time I'm making a change here, the scene is saving, and every time I change the content is saving. The reload, everything comes back exactly where it was. We also added support for multiple scenes. We've got a tab bar here. I can click plus, make some new scenes, double click to rename them, and close them. When I reload, only pinned scenes open. So this drop down here will show me all the scenes I made where I actually did something to it. So if I just make a new scene like this and never touch it, it's going to go away. I can pin the current set of tabs, and then I can reload and those tabs will come back. So when I come back, restart the app anywhere, it's going to save that in the browser local storage so it remembers. Actually, that's saved on the server, so even when you switch computers, the pin tabs will come back. We also added support for sets of scenes, which we call workspaces. So workspaces, I can go in here and go new workspace. I'll call this temp workspace. Workspace is going to be hidden, so if you want to work on some secret project, anyone else sit down on your computer and find it, then I'll show you how that works. So we'll make this new workspace, and now we switch to a new workspace. Doesn't have any tabs or scenes. And then the switch workspace, Control-Shift-O hotkey, lets me pick a workspace. And then if I made a hidden workspace, I have to type its name in here. So it's not super hidden, but it's there. So I'll just go back to default workspace. And then you can also import and export scenes. So that's under the file menu. We've got export scene. It'll export a zip file with all of the scene data. And then you can import that scene from zip, or you can also import a scene from a folder. And then how does that scene storage work? So by default, when you're running in local disk mode, it's going to be storing all that in your home directory under a directory.gsworkspace. This will work on different platforms. In Linux and Mac, it'll be in your user home directory. On Windows, it'll be in users, your username. So in here, we can see the workspaces. So this scene and temp directory, these are bugs right now. They're just always going to be empty. But so default is the default workspace. The app always shows you what workspace you're in at the top here and what scene you have open. So you can see these are the different workspaces. And if you go in here, you can see all the files. Right now, it's keeping everything. So like I said before, I don't want to lose stuff. So even when I delete something, it's hanging on to that. And I can always, go in Windows here and turn on icons and see all that stuff in case I need to recover something. Probably make that better. There's the other workspace. So these are just files. The scene is just a JSON file. Everything is just simple, flat files. And so you can parse these with your own Claude Code if you wanted to do something with your scene files. And when it's stored in S3, works the exact same way. It makes this same set of directories. It's all just files on the S3 storage too. So now let's go back just to the site here, right? I mentioned at the beginning, it says up here, Claude, when they generated this page for me, initially it said it's an AI canvas. So what makes it an AI canvas? Well, it's these prompt objects. So if I right click and go new image gen prompt and type a prompt in there, click run, it's going to run nano banana by default and generate us an image. So how does that work? How do we do that? I'm not paying for your image generations. So what you have to do to make that work in your version when you're running this app somewhere is you got to have API keys. So if you're running in local or online mode, that AI processing goes through the server side. So the way you set it up when you install the app, there's instructions in lots of places on this GitHub, is there's this .env file you have to configure. So this is where if you want online mode to work, you got to set up an S3 bucket. If you want to deploy it on a server, you got to set up allowed origins. This is where you put in your API key. So you can get an Anthropic API key and a Gemini API key. If you set up a Gemini API key, you can do everything. Anthropic doesn't have image generation, so you would still need Gemini for image generation. And then you can set up some other stuff in here, like this server name, this gsworkspace is configured here. And you can give it a password. If it's on a server, you definitely want to set up a password. If you're running locally, maybe you still want to set up a password and a few other things there in the server config. So that this will become a .env file in your setup. In offline mode, because where there's no server, that stuff doesn't exist, but you can go into the settings and set local API keys. These will get stored in browser local storage. Same keys, it does the same stuff. Well, I don't know if it's less secure, it's on your computer. Anyway, we only do it that way in offline mode because we don't have a server where we can sort of try and put that stuff. Okay, now I'm going to switch to online mode where I have this is my plan for this video. So I just have a few things in here I'll show you. So so I showed you the image gen prompt. This is the LLM prompt where you just do text processing, or it does vision too. So the way I implemented these is basically whatever you have selected when you click run is context for that prompt. So when I select this image and then I run this prompt I made, it's going to send that image along with the prompt text. So here I'm just asking it, this is just a screenshot of a control panel in Mesh Mixer. And I'm asking it to give me a list of what's in there. So it's looking at it, it did a pretty good job. It doesn't actually know what these parameters necessarily mean, so I might have to go in here and edit this, fix some things so I can do that. So that's prompt objects. And then finally we get to what I showed you at the beginning, which is HTML gen objects. So these have a system prompt. The system prompt is on the server. It's a text file you can go and change. And so that system prompt tells the LLM, so this runs same thing. It uses Claude or Gemini models. That system prompt tells it to do things like try and respect the bounding box sizes and trying to arrange the images floating if they're smaller, or full width if there's, like, say, a row, a bunch of them in a row, stuff like that. And then, like I showed you before, it's going to generate a page based on that. So we saw this is the page it did the first time. Not bad, actually. I'd say maybe that's a little bit small. Things like that. So you can actually round trip edits, where I got an example of that over here. So this was another attempt, and then you can use a regular LLM prompt to round trip HTML edits. It'll detect that. You just have to tell it, I think. No, you don't even have. Oh yeah, to just output the HTML. Otherwise, you're going to get other text in here. Right now, we'll fix that. Claude will figure out how to fix that. So here I asked it to make the images bigger and fix, the bottom over here came out a little weird. I didn't like it, so I asked it to do a little bit of relayout. And in online mode here, Claude implemented some stuff for me. So you see here it says config issue. That's because, in fact, in this demo, I'm using a public S3 bucket, so I don't have access key. That's terrible, terrible security. But it'll detect things like that. If the server goes offline, it'll show you down here. If there's issues saving, it'll tell you what's going wrong saving. And also, Claude nicely built me some multi sort of not user, but like conflict detection. So if we're storing online, if I'm on one computer and I make some edits, the other computer had the file open, what's going to happen? So I'll just make some changes here. These are saving. You can even do this on one computer. So I have another version of the app locally, and every couple seconds it checks the server for a new version. So now I found a conflict in this other instance of the app, so it's going to ask me if I want to sort of stomp those remote changes, or if I should get those remote changes, or I can fork. I can take my current scene here and make a new scene with my local changes separate from the remote changes. Or I guess I could just ignore it, and this dialog will pop up again in a couple seconds. So that's the app, and then so if you want to try it out, like I mentioned, then you can try this demo. You can also just sync it on GitHub, and then on the GitHub page there's instructions for how to run it. So this is the sort of development, how to run it. Now, frankly, what I would recommend is you get Claude Code, and then you just ask Claude Code to start the servers, and it'll do this for you. It'll do the npm installs and run the servers and stuff like that. If you don't want to deal with all this developer-y stuff, there's also various ways to kind of just use the app from the GitHub repo. So if we go into this install directory, when you sync, there's different options here for local and off. So offline mode just does a build of the web page, and then you put it on a website. That's how I make the demo page. The main one you could use is local. So in here there's a bunch of scripts. So if you're on different platforms, you run this configure script for your platform, and then the launch script, and that'll launch the servers and open a browser to the front end, and then you can use the app like I've just been showing you. On Windows right now, there's another thing you can do, which is this install Windows local app data. So what that does is it installs into your local app data folder. It installs a version of the app and creates a start menu shortcut. So then it'll show up in the start menu. So if I scroll down here, somewhere in here, gsworkspace is in here. I pinned it here so I can just launch it. And what it does is it launches a Chrome app version here. So now it's the exact same stuff I was just doing. There's online mode, switch to offline mode. So basically, you can run it kind of like it's a Windows desktop app by using that script and uninstall. And you do, if you wanted to work in online mode or with the API keys, you just set them up here in that directory in backend.env. So there's instructions for doing that too. If you want instructions here in the install, right here, this Windows app installation. Oh, and here we got a section. It made all this explaining the environment variables. Looks like that needs to be updated. And it's under unlicensed, so this is completely AI generated code. Claude did all the code, I didn't touch it. So I don't have any copyright on this code, and you can do whatever you want with it, but you also can't have any copyright on it unless you do some editing, because that's how the laws work right now. Okay, so that is version 1 of this app after 3 weeks. And I'm gonna keep working on it. I got some cool bonkers stuff that Claude's gonna add to it. I'm gonna come up with the ideas, and Claude's gonna do it for me. And so yeah, I hope you find it useful. I'm already finding it super useful. So like I said, it's my fantasy app that I've been wishing I had, and I didn't have time to build, but now I have it because Claude built it for me. Okay, thanks for watching.